What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope everybody out there is having a wonderful day. Today on our farm, it's time to pull our onions and kind of give some conclusive analysis to our onion trial that we did this year. So on our last video, we did a little hack with a line of string to try to get those English peas to climb that trellis better. And while shooting that video, I had these onions in the background, and lots of people were asking why not do a video on all these onions. And it was getting about that time, so here we go. Now these onions have been ready to harvest for several weeks now, but I just haven't had the window to get it done. And you'll see here in a minute the way we dry these out before we put them in storage requires 3 to 4 days of nice sunny weather, no rain. Now it's not just been waterlogged around here by any means, but we haven't had any good stretch of 3 or 4 days without any rain in the last couple weeks. We've been just getting a little bitty shower here every other day or so. But we've got a good stretch this week so we can get these puppies out of the ground, get them dried good, and get them into storage. Now in the past, we have used this right here as a sign that the onions are ready to harvest. The tops fall over. That's how we know they're ready to pull out of the ground, dry out, and put in storage. But sometimes, like these guys right here, they don't really fall over. They just start kind of drying back and crisping up. Now if you reach down here and feel this, it would fall over given the chance. It's definitely kind of soft and weak right there, but they're not falling over like some of them. So falling over is a good sign. Also this right here, this strong die back here, is a good sign that these are ready to come out of the ground. Now not every single onion in these 7 or 8 rows is falling over or showing signs of dieback, but for the most part they all are close enough to where we can go ahead and pull all of them and we should just be fine. We did have several of them bolting, which is going to happen when you've been having these wacky weather swings that we've been having. That's just part of growing onions. But as you can see there, most of the tops are either falling over or have died back somewhat. So let's talk about our trial we did here and talk about some of the favorite varieties from the trial. So we grew 8 different varieties of short day onions. So unfortunately, this video is a little bit biased to people who live in the South because we have to grow short day onions down here. You live in the middle of the country, you grow intermediate day onions. If you live in the northern part of the country, you grow long day onions. I can't grow intermediate or long day onions down here and make a decent sized onion. So there's no way possible, physically, climatically possible, for me to talk to you and show you intermediate or long day onions. So all these varieties I'll be telling you about are short day onions because that's what we grow down here. Now we planted these back in late October, early November. That's when we like to plant our onions down here in the South. We grow them through the winter, we overwinter them, and then we harvest them now in the spring. So they've been in the ground quite a long time. And if you live in an area where you rarely get below 20 degrees, overwintering is a great option to make some monster onions come springtime. So let's take a look at all 8 varieties and see which ones we like the best. Okay, what I did here is just pulled 3 or 4 of the best representatives from each row or each variety and laid them out here at the front of the row. So we can take a look at them, compare these varieties, and see which ones were winners and ones we probably don't care about growing again. So let's start off on row 1 here. We have a Granix type onion, which means a flattened yellow sweet onion. This one's called Plethora. Then row 2, we have a round sweet onion, and this one here is called Cougar. We've got a white onion here called Carta Blanca. It's the only white onion we grew. We've got a red onion here called Red Maiden. That's the only red onion we grew. Here we have another Granix type, a flattened onion called Sweet Agent. Here's our second round sweet variety. This one's called Duster. And then another flattened Granix type. This one is called Savannah Sweet. And then the last one here is another Granix called Sweet Harvest. One thing I want to do on this channel that's a little bit different than any other gardening channel is talk about the seed varieties from the breeders side of things as opposed to the retailers side of things. You can go online and look up any of these varieties and buy them from whatever retailer you want. You can't buy them directly from the breeder because they have a distribution system set up. But I'll just mention the varieties and then you can choose whatever retailer you want to purchase them from. So some of you may know this, some of you may not. But if you buy a particular seed variety from one company and then buy it from another company, it's the same thing. It came from the same place. It's just been relabeled. So for instance, let's take this Sweet Harvest variety of onion that is bred by Cicada Seeds. Doesn't matter where online you buy Sweet Harvest from, it all came from the same place at one point. So while the retailers are all different, the breeder is the same for a specific variety, and that's why I want to talk about stuff from the breeder's perspective as opposed to the retailer's perspective, which can get very confusing for a lot of people. Okay, so now let's rank some of these bad boys. Now we have several different kind of subcategories of onions we grew, so we really can't compare the red to the white, so we'll try to break this up into some subcategories. So let's start off with the yellow Granix category, the big flattened sweet onions, for which we grew 4 different varieties. And the number one winner, I'd say, is the Sweet Harvest variety. Consistently the largest onions, the best looking onions. So Sweet Harvest by Cicada Seeds is number one. Number two would be Sweet Agent. That is a variety grown by Seminus Seeds, and that was a very early variety. It matured quicker than some of the rest of them, and really good consistency and size of onions there on those. Number three would be Plethora. Really good size there. It is almost a close tie between that and Sweet Agent, but I give Sweet Agent the nod. And then the last one, number four, which is not a bad variety at all, is they made some pretty nice onions, would be Savannah Sweet. So for our flat sweet onions, we've got Sweet Harvest, Sweet Agent, Plethora, and then Savannah Sweet. Now let's talk about our round sweet onions, which I grew 2 varieties. Got the Cougar and the Duster. And I'm also going to compare this to a round variety that I grew for many years I really like, the Texas Legend. So comparing just these two, the Duster and the Cougar, the Duster is definitely the winner here. The Cougar, I mean, it did okay. It was a decent little sized baseball onion there, but wasn't super impressed with this variety. The Duster's a pretty good variety, and I might even grow that one again. But when you compare both of these to the Texas Legend, I think the Texas Legend is still my favorite round onion variety to grow. This Duster's pretty good one, but if I was going to grow just one round sweet onion variety, I'd probably go with that Texas Legend. As far as the white and the red onions go, on the white onions I really don't have a whole lot to compare it to. I grew white onions for the first time last year. I don't really remember what variety I grew, but I do like this. If you want to grow a white onion in the south, this Carta Blanca is a great variety here. Did really good, nice, good sized onions, a little bit bigger than a baseball. So not a bad white variety at all. Just don't really have a whole lot to compare it to. As far as the red onions go, this is not the biggest red onion variety I've ever grown. This Red Maiden doesn't get as big as the Red Creole does. However, it is much less likely to bolt. The Red Creole is bad about bolting too early, and that's kind of just a thing with red onions. But this one here, this Red Maiden, none of them have bolted yet, which is really nice, and they grew out really well. And I think these are going to store a little bit better than some of the other red varieties I've grown in the past. So not near as big as a Red Creole, but doesn't bolt as bad, and looks like it may hold a little longer. So I'm not planning on growing 8 different varieties of short day onions every single year. This was just kind of a one-time trial, and I think we got some pretty conclusive results. So what are the winners? What are the varieties that I probably will grow again? Well, obviously the Sweet Harvest is number one. I'm going to grow again. Look how big that onion is. That's the biggest one I've got. That thing is absolutely huge. Probably close to 6 inches in diameter. It's just a monster sweet onion. Definitely gonna grow Sweet Harvest again. Definitely gonna grow Sweet Agent again. I like how big it is, also how early it is. And then this red one, just because it's not as big as the Red Creole, I like the growth habit of it. I like that it doesn't bolt. So probably gonna go Red Maiden again. So out of those 8 varieties we grew, lots of good ones, but we can't keep them all. So we'll take these 3 keepers right here: Sweet Harvest, Sweet Agent, and Red Maiden. So I got my buddy Abram here, also known as Bubby, and we're gonna pull up all the rest of these onions so they can dry out.
Dad, hey, don't call me Bubby.
So we're just gonna pull them up and lay them in a line here along the row so they can dry out. You getting them, bud?
Yep. Oh.
You the best onion puller I've ever seen.
I am pretty strong.
Pretty strong?
Ew, that feels gross.
Oh, that one's got a little slime on it. Let me get it. There we go. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, onion touch.
That's a big one.
Yeah, biggest one I have grown. Oh, Dad, look at this.
That one's huge. Go show it to the camera.
Daddy, look at this one.
Yeah.
I showed it through the camera already.
Okay, all right. We got to get on the next row. All right, all right, all right. We got them all flipped over there. Some of these rows aren't completely full because we've been stealing a lot of onions from some of these earlier maturing varieties. But that's all of them. And that's a lot of onions. Not as many as we used to grow when we used to sell them. But that's a lot of onions. We'll be eating a bunch and giving a bunch away. But it was really fun doing this trial, comparing all those 8 varieties. We ended up with some nice onions as a result. No stinker varieties. They were all pretty decent. Now you can lay these on the grass beside your garden, or you can just lay them on the dirt in the garden like we did here. And what we're looking for is we want to leave them out here in the sun to let them dry and cure. And we want to see this structure right here dry up, get nice and crispy, and we want to see those tops turn from green to brown and be nice and crispy. And then we can put them in our storage. We want them to cure out here in the sun for a few days. Now if you see that it's raining or it's about to rain, you need to go ahead and get them up. You don't want these things getting rained on out here. So if a rogue shower's coming along, I'm gonna have to get the wheelbarrow and get these guys underneath the barn with a quickness. But I think we're good for the next few days, which is why I wanted to go ahead and get them all pulled. And one more thing, you don't want to stack these on top of one another. They'll dry much better if they're laid out kind of single file here. Look at that monster right there. That's another one of those Sweet Harvest onions. So you can lay them in a line pretty close to one another. They could even be touching, but I wouldn't stack them on top of one another. You want to give them plenty of room to breathe and dry out nicely before you put them in your storage. So besides hauling these to the barn in a few days and putting them on our hardware cloth rack underneath the barn, the 2020/2021 onion season is officially a wrap. We tried 8 new varieties. We've got at least 3 that we're going to keep for future years. And if for some reason one of these varieties gets discontinued, there were several other good ones we grew that we can add back to the rotation if we need to. It was a wacky onion season for sure, because this winter was very wacky, colder than normal, wetter than normal. Having a good bit of compost in here really saved us, helped with drainage, and being able to get in there and cultivate every few weeks or so, every week if we could, keep it dried out a little bit. That really helped too, kept things from rotting and just getting too waterlogged. As far as the plans for this plot go, we got all the onions out, but we still got some elephant garlic and leeks on the end. Probably still gonna be another few weeks on those guys. So we're just gonna let this hang out until we get everything out of here, and then we're gonna plant the entire plot in popcorn. And I kind of feel bad about asking this because I know a lot of people lost their onions this year due to some of that crazy snow that we had in places that don't usually get snow. But if you did end up making some onions, let me know how your onions turned out. Let me know what varieties you grew that you're going to grow again next year. And if you're interested in more information on growing some of these hybrid short day onion varieties, the University of Georgia has some really great studies and information out there. You can just type into Google UGA onion study or something similar, and you'll get some nice results there, some nice studies they did, and they've tested way more varieties than we tested here. Really something neat to look at if you're interested in growing short day sweet onions. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.
Yeah, your heart is a sun, and it shines as it opens.
Well, your heart is a sun, and it shines as it opens.
Yeah, your heart is a sun, and it shines as it opens.
Well, your heart is a sun, and it shines as it opens.
Yeah, your bones are the earth, and they sing with the mountains.
Well, your bones are the earth, and they sing